Hey, what's up, Gemini? Welcome to another timeless general tarot reading. All typical disclaimers are assumed. All non-typical disclaimers are asserted. I'm not responsible for you misusing the truth imparted by this message if it is not meant for you. Make sure to check the timestamps below for relevant parts of the reading. That allows you to skip to card drops and skip past the interim and skip to the conclusion if you so choose. While you're down there in the description, make sure to check out the ways you can support me, both directly through PayPal or indirectly through social media follows. It's hard to articulate just how much all of that would go to help me out. So if you manage to make it down there, I definitely would appreciate it. Alright, so right off the bat, we have a card of duality here. Two of Swords. It is in the upright. This individual is being asked to take a step back and sort of rebalance their inner world. It's, in the upright, not really about being self-critical. It is about being self-reflective. And they're trying to balance something in their mind, and that's why they're taking a step back. And they're taking a seat here, and they're... Whoops. Three of Swords on the split there. They're taking a step back, and they're sort of recalibrating their internal world. And this is very interesting because Gemini has a lot of trouble with this duality. So here we go. Looked like we had the Strength card trying to come out. Okay, no, it wasn't the Strength card. Is this the Strength card? Okay, so I'm not sure about those. So that's essentially what... That is the whole shebang of this first card here, is that you're being asked to sort of take a deep breath, take a step back. Don't rush to action in this instance. Make sure that you've stabilized your internal world first. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see maybe the Two of Pentacles or the Lover's card come out, because those cards insinuate the same thing. Finding that balance within you. Alright, so let's see here. Is there any clarity for the Two of Swords? Any clarity for the Two of Swords, please? Alright, what about continuing the Two of Swords? Any developments for the Two of Swords? Seven of Cups. So this would be a reason why you would need to stabilize your internal world. If your internal world is too chaotic, you are going to have trouble dealing with this variety. The Seven of Cups denotes somebody who is... It's a good problem to have, that you have a lot of choices, but the issue is if you rush to a decision, there is a shot that you will pick a choice that is not of the highest quality. You know, maybe there's 5 good choices and 2 mediocre choices, but in your haste, you accidentally pick like one of the 2 mediocre choices. Is a part of this. So as much as it is about variety, due to the fact that you have this Two of Swords at the beginning, that really leads me to believe that you are being called to definitely think through your variety, think through your choices, and think through your options. Do not just rush to a choice. That's how you could get sort of pegged down with a mediocre option. And that's very disappointing. So sometimes this card can represent somebody who... It can sort of represent, like, more like what I was suggesting, sort of bad options hiding in the shadows, sort of concealing their true nature. Weird split. Three of Wands on the split. But in this instance, because it's kind of talking about your internal stability to lead this off, I take it to mean just don't haste to choice if you've got a ton of variety. In whatever form that is in. It is definitely asking you to make sure that your head and your heart are on board for whatever choice you're going with. So, I'm not sure what this is clarifying. 8 of Cups even. Wow. So following the 7 of Cups, there is a call to walk away from something. So that's very interesting, actually, because it is a smidge of a sign that you are not content with your variety. You're looking for even more variety. So it's a good shot here that through this retrospection of yours, you are going to realize that, and you're going to realize that you don't even like any of the options on the table. Whereas you might have just rushed to a decision previously. if you actually go through this Two of Swords, like sort of introspection. Wow. Third time I've missed on the shuffle for you. So if you go through this Two of Swords introspection, it's going to actually reveal the fact that none of the choices on the table are good enough for you if you really search your soul about it. And this is actually asking you to move on from those choices. That, or there could be a mixed sign here that you go through all of the options and none of them are good enough. So in the end, you actually have to look through, you actually have to find even more options because none of them are good enough for you, so to speak. So that's very interesting. All right, so let's get some clarity here. Is there any clarity on the Two of Swords? Any clarity on the Seven of Cups? All right, any clarity on the Eight of Cups? I don't like taking the bottom card because my finger can make that move out. So, all right. So in that instance, then let's see here. Further expansion on the Two of Swords. That's two cards. Further expansion on the Two of Swords. All right. What about further expansion on the Eight of Cups? Alright, so we've got nothing clarifying on any of the cards. Looking at a 6-minute read, 7-minute read. It's actually pretty straightforward here. You're being asked to search your heart and soul and stabilize. You're being asked, unfortunately, to stabilize that Gemini duality a little bit. And you're being asked to really be careful about your variety. As well as you're being given a sign that your variety is not even good enough for you. And that upon really thinking it through, you'll find that all of your options are not good enough. And there's actually signs showing here that you are going to be looking for even more options because none of them are good enough. So you might have high standards, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing if it's for the right reasons. Higher for injustice on the bottom, interesting, or on the split. So I've already iterated that point though like 2 or 3 times now, so I'm wondering why I'm not getting any more clarity here, so let's continue this. So any expansion on the Two of Swords? Bunch of stuff trying to come out there. If I could please, Great Goddess, can I get a clarification on the... Okay, so here's an expansion on the Two of Swords. The Five of Wands. Interesting, so... Okay, so can I get any clarity on the Five of Wands here? Mixing in with this Two of... So off the bat here, we're looking at some kind of group conflict that is often enough in career, but it's, you know, just like in some kind of peer success, instance, there's conflict. But it's not just that everybody's like fighting like barbarians. There's actually a method to the madness, and the purpose here is to grow out of some kind of situation, to find better solutions. So oftentimes it's like 5 people on a team all put their ideas forth, but only one of the ideas is good enough. So like, you know, and that debate has to ensue, and people might step on each other's toes a little bit, and they, you know, they might have to get down to like heart-to-heart talking, but the idea is that as long as that's done constructively and healthily, the best idea will come forth, and that conflict actually produces growth. So, and part of doing that constructively is actually being in your Two of Swords energy. The other thing that's interesting here is we're seeing that this Two of Swords energy is like the swords are actually balancing against these 2 cards. So I'm considering here exactly what that could signify. It could represent maybe a work-life balance. It also could, if they're going to represent each other to a certain extent, it could represent maybe that maybe you go through this conflict in the workplace, but even after like all 5 of the ideas are put forth, you don't like any of them. I'm not seeing any leadership cards here, but And it's not clarifying the Seven of Cups, but with the duality in the center, it's almost like there is... It's almost like you might not even like any of the ideas that come from this conflict. But it's on the other side, so let's see here. Can we develop the Five of Wands any further, please? Develop the Five of Wands any further? Okay, so how about a clarity on the Five of Wands? Clarity on the Five of Wands. Alright, so how about clarity on the Two of Swords? Clarity on the Two of Swords, please. Clarity on the Seven of Cups. Okay, so this one's clarified Seven of Cups, so we're looking at the Lovers in the upright for you. So when double dose of Gemini energy here, balancing on this Seven of Cups. In the upright, that is a sign that you've achieved this internal stability that you were looking for. The reason that you go into yourself to find this internal balance is to achieve this connection of the Lovers, which, while it can signify a physical love relationship, there aren't really... Well, I guess it's a little mixed here. I don't really like reading this card as purely two people in a loving relationship. It's never really been the strength of this card to me personally. The strength of this card to me personally is the fact that Gemini is represented by this card. Gemini's duality is represented in this card. And what that signifies is bringing your heart and your mind together properly, which is exactly the same thing as what's going on in this Two of Swords. So this is a good sign that you are going to make the right decision about this variety, which is why you're moving on from it. You have your heart space properly in tune with your mind, and maybe that's because you are practiced to doing that, because you're used to doing that in the workplace. Maybe in your career you're used to finding that greater power, and that's essentially going to serve you in your personal life as well. And I guess if I wanted to, I could play the love card a smidge here and say that maybe this is about love variety. So maybe you're sitting here listening to this and this is about, like, you've got 7 options on the table for, you know, to be like your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. The Lovers could kind of be signifying that. The thing though is that if you're moving on from them, I would expect the Lovers to be in the reverse, signifying that it's gonna misfire, you're not gonna find them in there. So the fact that you're in the upright here it's really, to me, denotes more about the energy than the relationship status. So take it as you will, sort of, but the power seems to be coming from the fact that whomever you are, you actually have a solid, you have a solid grasp over your internal integration, which just in the last reading, the Taurus read, it was the complete opposite. They had all negative energies, and the whole reading was like about them not having this power. So like, what you have is basically a blessing. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted that it's easy to find this heart space. And maybe the fact that you have all this variety coming to you is part of what keeps your heart intact. And if that's the case, then you're privileged, because not everybody gets that privilege of just having people come up to them and validate them. It's not how it works for everyone. So, but still, another cool thing is this is like an all upright energy, so it's completely opposite of the Taurus read I just did. And it's for a Gemini. Most of my Gemini reads have a lot of anxiety interfering with the individual. So the fact that I'm seeing all of this, the fact that I'm seeing an individual who is able to kind of sort of stabilize that Gemini duality is very cool. And I definitely like to see that. So let me move on here. Let's see here. Clarity for the Eight of Cups, please. Clarity for the Eight of Cups. Great Goddess, do we have any clarity for the Eight of Cups? I'm super happy the Lovers came out for you. You have Two Swords and Lovers, and the Lovers. Those are both very Gemini. The Lovers is literally represented by Gemini, and the Two of Cups represents Gemini's duality. You're only missing like the Two of Pentacles here too, to really seal the deal as like a severe Gemini duality reading. So that's pretty cool. All right, so no clarifier for the Eight of Cups. What about an expansion on the Eight of Cups? Anything to expand the Eight of Cups? It's too many. Too many as far as I'm concerned. All right, so that's two. That's also 2 cards. So if I could please, okay, so here's one. So to expand the Eight of Cups, we're looking at the King of Wands reverse, though. So that's a fair warning for you. Dang, so that's disappointing. It's not a good sign of what you're going to find. It's a warning of what you're going to find, in fact. And what you're going to find is perhaps an older male, an older fire sign, but they are insecure and toxic. And I hope that's not the variety you were looking for. I hope that you didn't leave behind these other options for a toxic individual. That would be very disappointing. It would be very disappointing, but that is the case of some people being attracted to activity like that. So maybe it's a warning to watch out for an older individual who... Okay, so here's a card just slipped out, but I didn't get any clarity on it. Or I didn't ask for the specifier here, so... Yeah, I mean, it's like... Okay, so I'm going to clarify... I'm going to try to expand the Five of Wands while I continue to talk about this. Man, yeah, the King of Wands reversed is... Man, unfortunately, it's a jackass. It's like it's kind of like a layboy. Like, it's like someone who's gonna attract you. If you're a girl, very sexually, like they're very douchebaggy in that regard. But like, they're probably not. Well, if they're in an authority position, then they're gonna attract you in that regard as well. So they might have resources and all that stuff, but they're not of the greatest quality of behavior. So I'm not sure exactly what you're leaving behind for that, but I don't know if this is a warning or if this is what you're looking for. Just beware that, you know, the downside to somebody like this is they're not going to treat you very nice in the long run. So you got to keep an eye out if that's really what you turn towards. Otherwise, I wonder if there's a way to kind of mix this energy up here. Oh, the other thing is your Eight of Cups is diminishing the King of Wands reverse. So they are not even... They're not even going to be at full throttle. Like, it really strikes me as hasting into this. Dang, I'm not getting any of the clarifiers. Okay, so what about clarifying Five of Wands? Okay, what about clarifying Two of Swords? Alright, what about clarifying Eight of Cups? Okay, so this kind of wanted to clarify the Eight of Cups. Strength card. 8-8. You got 8-8 on this. 8-8 is the Lion's Gate. I did not make that up, that's a real thing. So it's definitely speaking to your internal strength again, which is exactly what I'm seeing here from the Lovers upright and the Two of Swords upright is you as a Gemini are able to you're able to bring together your internal power. And that's something that, like I said, a lot of the other Gemini reads, they were struggling with. They were struggling with their duality, but in this instance, you got it cinched up. And it speaks to your strength that you are willing to walk away from all this variety on the table. The only thing that's getting me a little worried here is why you are walking towards a reverse King of Wands. Because they're not going to... Their insecurity is going to... They're not going to allow you to have the strength in the end of the day. They might be fun at first, but once the time set in and their insecurities start to overbear upon you, they're going to demand that you lose this internal resonance. It's just what their insecurity is going to demand. So, huge warning here to watch out for this individual. And I'm going to see if I can get any clarity on this King of Wands in the reverse. Just so I can try to drill home this point for you that it's not, in the long run, it's definitely not who you want to be sacrificing your better qualities for. So, okay, so here's clarifier for King of Wands, Three of Pentacles. Yeah, I mean, once again, this kind of speaks to the King of Wands being able to achieve things in career pretty well. So you might be flying. They might be flying under the radar because they've got you. Like you see on the outside that they are successful in the career and that they can get people to pull people together and stuff. So it might be the fact that they're career successful, and that's what this is suggesting. And it's even one of their more endearing qualities. I wish they were in the upright energy. If they're in the upright energy, I would say go for it, but they're not in the upright energy. And that kind of insecurity is, like I said, it's going to destroy these better qualities of yours, which is this internal ability to hold things together. So, yeah, this is very interesting. And I'm kind of missing what kind of energy they embody. They can be pretty toxic. They can be sort of belligerent. They can take action for the sake of just taking action. They're comfortable as a fire sign taking action, but in the reverse energy, it's like, oh, they'll take any action at all, almost. So it's like it's like going into a bar and being really obnoxious for the sake of just doing anything, basically. So that's very strange. Very disappointing that your Eight of Cups is yielding this to you. Okay, so let's see here. Any expansion on the Five of Wands? All right. Any clarifiers on the Five of Wands? Okay, so this one to come after clarifying Five of Wands, we have the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. So that's weird. Yeah, this Five of Wands conflict should, in fact, it should not be yielding this issue. So this is very disappointing to see, because when you achieve this Five of Wands successfully, that is supposed to work out the kinks in the system, and that is supposed to keep your effort from going to waste, but it looks like the effort goes to waste anyway, for whatever reason. So that's very disappointing. It's the last thing I want to see for a Five of Wands clarifier, because it is a sign that despite the fact that everybody went through this process to figure out the best idea, it's still, here we've got two of Swords clarifier, the Sun. Once again, your internal world being very, very stable. Extremely stable inner world. A blessing for a typical Gemini in duality, all things considered. But once it goes into this career life, you've got this weird Seven of Pentacles clarifier. So now I'm curious, can we please expand the Five of Wands, please? If we could, please. Would like to expand the Five of Wands to see what is up with this conflict not working out, because the only thing I really... Sometimes the best idea still isn't good enough. That's mostly what is kind of being signified here. So here we have a clarifier for Five of Wands. Or not clarified, but an expansion on the Five of Wands, and we have, dang, Four of Wands reverse. That matches, yeah, so that's very strange. This Five of Wands conflict isn't working out in the end, which is very, very disappointing. Dang. So I'm very sorry to see that, because it's if you bother to go through that, you should in fact find better stability, and you should in fact be rewarded for your effort. But this is suggesting that the effort is not going to go paid, and
everything okay, Ben?
Yes, and there is going to be postponement in your stability. So that is disappointing to see for you. And I can see then why you would be looking towards other options. Like, so maybe this isn't a romantic read at all. This may be a purely career read. So if I was going to flip it on that, into that mode, essentially what I'm seeing here is like, there's got to be other issues in the workplace then. If this can be achieved but it doesn't yield success, that's very strange. That's other issues muddling into the mix. Like maybe your team is solid at this, but then upon delivering your part, like the greater part of the company or whatever just can't put it together, is sort of what's being symbolized here. So I can't blame you then if you're actually looking for other options. And what this is signifying is your search for other options. As long as you do it, as long as you do it with the internal strength that's being given to you here, it's actually a virtue of yours that you would pass 7 options along to find a better one. I'm sorry that it's pointing you towards this King of Wands, though. So maybe to flip this around, maybe on the surface this King of Wands looks toxic. And so maybe it's an option where you see this option and at face value, maybe off of first impression, like the leader of the company or the boss you'd have to work for, like the interviewer, whomever is responsible for you getting this position, maybe they rub you the wrong way. Maybe they come off a little toxic, maybe they come off a little abrasive, overbearing, but this is signifying that under the surface, they actually do have the capacity to achieve this. They actually do, they may embody the leadership qualities better than you give them initial credit for. Because they're getting clarified here by this Three of Pentacles, and that's teamwork coming together and succeeding. That's the people being able to come together for success. Which is not exactly what's happening here and here, with the Seven of Pentacles reversed and the Four of Wands reversed. So, interesting. Definitely very interesting. Let's see here. Can we clarify the Four of Wands, please? If we don't mind, can we develop the Four of Wands, Seven of Pentacles reversed, please? Okay, so here we go, and we're looking at Page of Wands reversed. Just more disappointment about this whole ordeal. Once again, it's kind of a weird energy because we've got on the mirrored ends here, reversed wand individuals. Like, so that's a little strange. That's almost pointing to maybe, why just did the Emperor come up? Dang it, but I wasn't clarifying. I wasn't asking where it was supposed to go, so let me see here. Can I get a clarifier for the Four of Wands, please? If you don't mind, could you please develop the Four of Wands? I'm going to try and balance this around your Two of Swords energy here. Seeing as how the King of Wands reverse is really sticking in my craw here. It's great energy for you. All of your Gemini energy is very great in this. Your internal core is very good. Even though you're missing it, or maybe you would have different desires for achievement, depending on things outside of your power. It's very interesting otherwise. So I'm going to keep looking for some clarity here for the Four of Wands reverse, but we're looking at the Page of Wands reverse. And energetically, they are... That's exactly the kind of individual that would deter the success. They're exactly the kind of individual that, like, would throw this court off. So maybe you've got, like, 8 or 9 friends, and you all get together, but then, like, when one jackass shows up, it, like, ruins everything. That's sort of what this is signifying. Also, if this individual is insecure or toxic, that can really deter the effort and the final quality of the effort. If they're putting people down who need to do things a certain way. So it's definitely the energy that would be required to ruin these things, undoubtedly. And it can represent an individual. They're younger, though. Typically, these are young kids or teenagers, signified by the Page of Wands, and it's not even gender specific. Very masculine fire energy, though, but in the reverse, it's like they're very toxic. They're basically just bullies. They're actionable bullies. It's interesting, though, how it's balanced. If you consider 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of interesting. I'm actually wondering how much more I should try to clarify here. So I'm going to be looking at... I'm going to try to develop this Four of Wands one more time and clarify whatever comes off of that. So the reading has actually developed pretty good so far, though. And you might have heard what you needed to hear. The clarity on this side isn't that complicated. It's just sort of signifying that despite your direct effort, there's other factors that are screwing things up. And based off of the energy that is being presented for you, I would believe you. Because this is showing that you have a ton of internal capacity. A ton of it. the Sun, Lover's Strength, those are extremely powerful internal major arcana. You know, like I said, it's a blessing in being able to be in that state of mind, especially for Gemini who has the duality issue, typically. And it's also cute that you aren't willing to settle, in my opinion. I think that's pretty cool. And it's even speaking to that being your strength, that you're willing to look for something better. So I really like that. And that's exactly why you're going to be looking for something better if your best isn't good enough to float this situation because of other individuals. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Eight of Pentacles trying to flip out there a little bit. I don't even know if I want to continue doing this reading or not. I feel like it's right about where it needs to be. I'm going to give the Great Goddess one more shot here to expand the Four of Wands, but I think that's about as clear as it needs to be. So, Great Goddess, is there anything that you severely want to clarify for the Four of Wands reversed? Here we have the Justice card. Interesting. Looks like my cards are a little off here. So that's why it would have been easier to end the read there, because now I have this Justice card bleeding into the Four of Wands reverse. And off the top of my head, the thing that comes to mind is that losing you is the karma for this situation not dealing with itself. That's the natural consequences, that you get to look for something better in your experience. So hopefully it'll be a wake-up call for these Page of Wands energies. But oftentimes it's not. So we'll see. One more clarifier here. Can we finish this off with clarifying the Justice and Page of Wands reverse, please? What are we tying together with those energies? This wants to come out, so let's go with this. And to end it off, we've got the Emperor. That tried to come out earlier, remember? If you do recall, you can even go back and check. The Emperor, I had the Emperor flipped out in my hand, and then I put it back, and now we've got it out again. So yeah, it would have been easier. It would have been a lot easier to end the reading, because at this point I'm speculating, because it turned around the energy here. Like, I would say, what's currently coming to mind here is the idea that there will be lessons learned from this defeat. And that lesson learned very well might be the fact that you decided to find something better. So, like, it's even a sign, it's sort of a sign of growth for these individuals. So I don't know if you meant something to them or not, but we're seeing this Page of Wands reverse turn into the Emperor. It's quite an evolution. And we're seeing the Emperor clarifying the Justice card, which is like, it's definitely sort of a sign of, what is this here? Yeah, I mean, it's a sign of growth at the end of the day. That's what I'm getting here. So you might even need to leave for things to change in this situation. And it looks like these people will change for the better. That's what's in their cards, so to speak. Alright, so I think I'm pretty good here. I'm going to do a conclusion. As a Gemini watching this, you have the potential to have extremely powerful internal resonance the typical Gemini duality that can befall many of your sign does not seem to be tearing you up inside. You have a ton of cards here signifying your Gemini duality, but you have a ton of cards here that are signifying the fact that you have that roped in, that you actually have your internal world stabilized and producing for you at an optimal fashion. So much so that you are finding a lot of variety on your doorstep. Due to the fact that you have this internal world stabilized, it's going to be difficult for you to be bamboozled, so to speak, by faulty choices. And this is signified by the fact that you understand sort of where your line is drawn for what you value. And I'm missing the exact word I used for it earlier, but you're not interested in settling for something that's not good enough for you. And in fact, you're very willing to leave behind plenty of choices if they aren't good enough. And I don't blame you if you have this much internal capacity. There's a slight warning here that you may initially put down a new option due to maybe some belligerence from that option. Maybe they come off insecure, maybe they come off a little toxic. On the surface, it doesn't seem great, but there is a sign here that individual has more going on under the surface, and that they actually have some of the values that you're looking for, which is the ability to actually bring people together to achieve things, which seems to be very important to you, because on this other side of the reading, we're getting the sign that regardless of the type of effort that goes into the mechanics of a successful group, the utter results are not great. The effort goes unrewarded. The effort perhaps produces some shoddy craftsmanship at the end of the day. There's some sign here that you are seeking a different type of stability but not finding it. There's always like delays and finally getting to a certain state. And there's a sign here that is due to a certain extent, kind of toxic energy, kind of insecure energy. Not from you, but from other individuals. And those people can, in fact, ruin this situation. They can be the obnoxious ones that delay this stability, and they can kind of be the bullies and the people who pick on other people just enough to diminish their ability to achieve and to craft properly, which really diminishes the effort, which is part of why you're looking for other options. So in the event that you do pick another option, which it's looking like that's on your horizon, don't worry too much about these people you leave behind, because this is showing that they actually are going to grow from it. So I don't know what kind of situation this is, but with this Justice and Emperor card, that's a lot of growth out of these negative energies, big time. And maybe they even understand at the end of the day why this happened. So that's about it. That's about all I got. I'm definitely interested in. It's very cool to see this much internal stability. I'm not a Gemini, but I struggle with my own internal stability. So I literally am I'm definitely curious about how you actually could achieve this. Like, what are your mental patterns that allow you to do this? What are the tricks up your sleeve, so to speak, that allow you to stabilize your internal world so much? That's all actually stuff I'm very curious in, so I'm very happy that you're here. And I'm very happy that you were able to share this energy with me, because most of the Geminis I read for are dealing with being outside of that internal stability. Their duality has got them shook, and they're fighting with it a lot. Most of the Gemini reads are like that. Seeing a Gemini read like this, where you've got it all wrapped up together, that's actually an astounding feat for a Gemini. And you could, in fact, be a leader of your sign to a certain extent if you can actually pull this together this much. So I love to see that, and I'm so happy that you were here to help bring this energy out. And the only warning I've got is, once again, this King of Wands threw me off. If this is career related, I wouldn't worry so much about this King of Wands. If it's not career related, King of Wands is a warning that you might give yourself to short-term attraction but you've got to watch out in the long term, because this a reversed King of Wands in the long term has the capacity to break your internal stability through their own insecurities. So definitely watch out for that. That's the only warning I've got. This all looks very career oriented though, so I'm not sure if that's the case, but just as a smidge of a warning, keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, it looks like you've got most of this down. You understand how to stabilize yourself internally, and that's extremely key for being able to make these choices properly. A lot of people who have to deal with this variety, if they aren't in this internal stability, they make the wrong choice because their internal resonance is broken. It's faulty to a certain extent, and that's how poor choices get in, even though there's variety. And you're on the complete flip of that. You are so stabilized that you actually have a very high bar, and you throw a ton of variety and look for something better. And I really appreciate that. So, all right, Gemini, that's all I've got. Good luck, take care, and thank you for being here.